Welcome, everybody. We are here to talk about your influence. It's bigger than your cubicle. Who knows that already? And who's like, I don't even work in a cubicle. Will we all take a moment? Would you mind to unmute for a moment? Say hello, good morning, give your well wishes to all these incredible folks who are piling in. We're also just testing our audio. Everybody ready? In 3, 2, 1, hit it.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Excellent, excellent. There we go. Well, today we're going to talk about influence strategies. We're going to talk about change strategies. And if we haven't met before, I think most of us, we have met one another. But my name is Julie Lancaster. I'm so glad that you are here. And one thing that we know is that change and influence is happening all the time. How you just showed up, the words you wrote in the chat, the way you smiled or different, the way it didn't, the way your camera is on or it isn't. Influences, none of that is judgment. That is just saying those are the facts. So would everybody take a moment, would you mind, with your thumb, will you show us how much do you like change? This is I love it. This is I hate it. This is everyone everywhere in between. Show them, and take a look around. Get curious about all these incredible folks that are here together. Okay, we've got some good diversity, right? We've got Vanessa's a little low, below middle, Kyle's right in the middle, and then Dion is like double thumbs up. Great, that's a great diversity. And now will you show us how well do you think you influence the world around you, other people? This is, I'm great at influencing. This is nobody listens to me. Nobody ever is influenced by me. And this is everywhere in between. Show us. Okay. Great. We can put them down. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So personal development is professional development. That's what we are always doing with our leadership programming. So get ready for us to be talking about you personally. This is not just here are the tips and tricks. It's about who you are and how you show up. So I'm going to share my screen a bunch and then I'm going to unshare it a bunch. I like to see all of you so much better, but here we go. This is what we're talking about today. This is being recorded. So for those of you who are watching this not at the same time, hello, and you'll all know that you'll have a chance to see this later too if you want to hold on to this. Will you flood the chat with, what do you want to influence these days? Who do you want to influence? What do you want to influence? Anything that comes to mind, just start typing in, get things flooding in there. Who do you want to influence? What do you want to influence? Yes, we've got directors, we've got my team, we've got hiring managers, a lot of my team, community and audience, everyone, clients, faculty, partners, peers, HR. This is so good. This is so good. Donors, staff, students, positive change. Oh my goodness, keep them coming, keep them coming. You are doing this here today for them. Because what we know is you are a good person and you're well-intentioned and you've got great ideas. You just need to figure out how to be able to influence. So we're going to talk about all those strategies. Great, keep them coming if you've got them. Here is who I am in case we haven't met. In terms of influence, sometimes it's nice to tell people, hey, I've got a little bit of credibility. So if you're here to talk to me, I might have a few things in my past that are helpful for you to know. But let's just dive in. Okay, here we go. Get ready to take some notes. Get ready to scribble down some stuff or open another monitor, have your iPad at the same time. Oh yeah, I love that one, Eric Black. People that are underperforming or not performing at their full potential. Yes. Is anybody like, I am already influenced now by Eric. I'm going to include that onto my list. So here are the 4 different change agent types. Get ready. And again, influence is about effectuating change. Yes? So if you're like, why are we talking about change? Influence is saying, I want something to be different in some way than it is right in this moment. Typically, I bet you could find some loophole where it's not actually, but that's what we're going to go with. Great. So this first one, the influencer. I want you to think, which of these are you the most? The influencer type is someone who utilizes influence and emotional intelligence. which I know you all have emotional intelligence, to help a group move forward together. Another way to say that is that you focus on the vision. We might say in parentheses that you're the emotional champion. If you're like, I don't work with emotions so well, this is probably not your strength. You might be the strategist. The strategist is someone who's good at seeing the big picture and can simplify complicated concepts for others. I will share with you when I first wanted to get chickens. Do any of you have chickens? I was like, I don't even understand. If I was to get a dog, I kind of understand when you feed them, how you walk them and all of that. But chickens, I thought, I don't know the kind of food. I don't know their different stages. I don't know how they live, what time they sleep, what temperature they need. And so I researched, and I researched so much. Then I was like, I've synthesized this so clearly for myself. Then I wrote an article for the newspaper for the urban chicken farmer want to be, who was like, I need this simplified. Yeah, that's right, Gina, laugh with me or laugh at me. Yeah.
I love it though.
This person is focused on logic. They are a developmental strategist. Then we're going to look at the adapter. This person adapts easily, right? Adapting and pivoting is maybe one of the key concepts or things we practiced during COVID. So if you really shined during that, you're like, oh, this is me. If it was really hard for you, that might not be you here. You adapt easily and comfortably. You're comfortable with risk taking and learning from trial and error. You're like, let's try it. You lead with risk taking or taking risks. You are what sometimes they say, if you're taking a look at this resource down at the bottom and you want to learn more, they call this an intuitive adapter. Their words, not mine. And the fourth one, which I'm going to ask for you in a moment, to say which one you think you are most frequently. You might be all four, but which do you lead with most frequently? Most frequently is, this last one is improver. A systems thinker who focuses on process. The process improvement. You're thinking about processes. It's not just this right here and now. You're not like, let's just try it. You're like, how does this fit into the bigger system? And how can we improve the system? You're a continuous improver. Okay, so now seeing all of that, will you put into the chat, which one do you think you are? Keep them coming. And if you want to take any screenshots or even get your phone out and take a picture, if it's helpful for you, you're welcome to. And as for, oh gosh, it's so fun to look at all of these. Silka, will you look with me? Which one is the most popular? I don't know if I can figure it out. All right, Silka, you're not going to help me, are you? I'm all in, it's up to me.
You.
Which one is it? I don't even know. There's a lot of good diversity here. Yeah. Awesome. So here's what I want each of us to remember. All of you are here because you are the kind of person who likes to grow and develop. Yes. And sometimes we can have a challenge with being a constant striver. Do you know what I mean by that? You're always looking for, how can I improve? How can I improve? And sometimes the most important thing we can do is lean into our strengths. Have you heard of strengths-based coaching before? Or strengths-based leadership? It's focusing on your strength. So you might be like, okay, sure, I want to develop all these other three, but I really want to lean into the one that I do well. So you can have two different kind of mindsets for this. But I just want to mention that. Okay, so now there are 4 qualities. 4 qualities that you need if we're talking about personal development is professional development. Let's take a look at the 4 personality qualities that you need to influence well. They are being transparent. Are any of you like, yes, 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 that's what I want from other people. Honesty, clarity, no hidden agendas. Charisma. Isn't that an interesting word, right? Charisma, meaning that you're gregarious, you're magnetic somehow. Open-mindedness. Isn't that interesting? Because sometimes when we're thinking about influencing, we think about forcing, right? Like, do it my way, which is typically the opposite of being open-minded. And the 4th one there is being empathetic. caring about the people you're communicating with. Now, would you mind putting into the chat, which of these 4 would you like to work on the most? So before I was asking you to talk about a strength, and now I'm asking you to put into the chat, which one of these do you want to develop the most? Oh yeah, now Silka, you could help me, right? Which one do you see the most of?
Well, I see empathy and charisma the most.
Yeah, great, great. Me too. I feel like if we were going to do the math, I feel like charisma might be the winner, but I'm not totally sure. So we could essentially hang up now, everybody, right? Meaning like, you know what you need to do. You don't need to go and Google, how can I be more empathetic? How can I have more charisma? Okay, or if you do, I'll give you the quick tips. If you want to be more empathetic, the way to behavioralize empathy is good listening skills. Listening well is one of the kindest, most empathetic things you can do. If you want to develop your charisma, the number one thing you need to do is good self-care, because you can't show up as your unique, vibrant self if you're not taking care of yourself, right? You're going to be a muted version of yourself somehow. Okay, so let's keep going. Now I want us to remember there is intentional influence and there is unintentional influence. Just as I mentioned, I'm going to stop my share again so we can see each other. As you are looking around at one another, you are influencing one another, and some of you wish that you weren't. Mm-hmm. Right? Are you ever like, I wish people were not picking up what I'm putting down. I'm tired. I'm in my pajamas. Like, can you just ignore me? And people are picking up what we're putting down, right? Has anyone ever come back to you and they told you something that you, how you impacted them? And this is now years later, and you're like, I don't even remember that situation. Just by the very nature of how you are influencing others. But probably what we're talking more about today is the intentional influence. Would you mind putting into the chat, what are some goals you've had in the past that you reached or haven't reached? Or maybe they're current goals. Just put the topics. What are any goals you have ever had? Great, keep them coming. Oh, and look at this incredible diversity here. This is amazing. Look at these. Okay, now I'm going to share with you. I've just tricked you. No, I haven't tricked you. I asked you to do this for a different reason than you might have expected. The reason I asked you to just put what are some goals you've had or have into the chat is so that you have the potential right now to be influenced by one another. How Bong is saying public speaking, Lauren might be like, oh, you know what? I have had public speaking as a goal in the past and it's fallen off my radar and I want to bring it back, right? Or someone sees that Anissa says, I want to finish school. And someone's like, you know, I wonder if I should get back into school. Or you might feel great about having the opportunity to share, right? Sophia's like, I'm doing sport climbing. And she might feel great to be like, hey, that was a goal I had and now I'm able to do it. So take a look at these. If you want to be inspired by anybody, copy all these. You know how in the chat, you can just even copy all the bubbles and save all of them. If you're going to go teach a class later on about setting goals, here are plenty of incredible examples from real people. Now, the other thing that I'm imagining is when you were setting these goals, you had to influence yourself the most. Are you with me? It's first getting yourself on board and then influencing others. This has something to do with confidence. This has something to do with believing in ourselves. The folks who are involved in the world of sales will always say it's easy to sell, right? Heidi Hansen, if you believe in the product, right? Then it's easy to sell. So if we are thinking about influencing others, how can you get behind it first? going to share my screen with you again. Okay, so I'm going to ask for you to think about right now, how do you influence? If I was like, okay, please teach us your top 5 strategies on how you currently influence, what would you say? Any answers, anything's okay. And we're talking about principled negotiation. We're talking about yesable solutions, which that yesable word, I think it's made up, but they talk about it a lot in this book, getting to yes. Great, keep them coming. Write your ideas into the chat. How do you influence other people? Or I could even get really big picture. How do you influence yourself, right? Okay, these are great. Look, we could also end now because you have so many incredible ideas that you already know. And here's one thing I want to share is that passion erodes strategy. Passion erodes strategy. So if you're wanting to influence others, we tend to forget all of these strategies. So I can even barely keep up with seeing all of them. I'm going to just start sharing a few. Don't be oh, that was somebody's goal. Listen, be authentic, have well thought out ideas, gain buy-in by building trust, be impassioned and have one-on-one dialogue, speak up in team meetings and with others, model it, take time to get to know people, more modeling, more leading by example, using persuasion. I'm so curious, what does that even mean, right? Being trustworthy and being honest, being excited, developing rapport with people. These are all fantastic. Encouraging others, supporting, be engaged, be motivated, be empathetic. Don't be afraid to do what I'm asking someone else to do. Yeah, Dion, love that. Okay, so let me ask you this question. I want to stop my share so I can see all of you. Stephanie Smith, share with me. So there's young people in the workforce these days, and there are more seasoned people in the workforce these days, right? Right? Let's just go with there's Generation Z, which is our youngest one, and there are baby boomers. Stephanie, why do you think Generation Z and millennials don't want typically the baby boomers' jobs? That's some research that's coming out these days. They don't want their jobs, meaning more supervisory, managerial. Unmute with me, talk to me. What do you think? And you might be like, I have no idea, that doesn't make any sense, but I'm curious, what do you think?
I would take a guess that it has to do with the relationship people want with work and that, like, how work they show up, how work shows up in their life. And I hate making generational assumptions, but I think just the relationship people want with work and what work means and what it doesn't mean anymore to people influences the types of jobs that they're interested in versus working to live or live to work.
My goodness, can we all come on, Stephanie, thank you so much. That was incredible, right? She even threw the word influence in there. She's talking about working to live or living to work. And I bet we could ask half of you who are the younger folks why you don't want the more seasoned jobs. And I bet a lot of that would be it. What I'm going to add on is this. I want you to think about this, especially if you are in a managerial role, who, in terms of career ladder climbing, people typically want to do that. Not all the time, but oftentimes people do. The more seasoned folks, the managers, the directors, the chiefs, make the job look miserable. They are influencing with the unintentional, very unintentional influence, because they're talking about what's stressful, what's hard, how much work they have to do, how it's not fun. And so the younger folks are listening, right? They are the older, more seasoned folks, the people further along in their career, they're listening to them and they're saying, that is not the kind of life I want. So the reason I'm sharing that with you today is because I want this to be the wake-up call for you if you need one. What are you talking about in your life? When you get home at the end of your day, Are you talking about this is what was amazing and this is what I've loved, or this is what sucked? And it's not that I want you to bottle up and stop talking about what's hard, but I want you to go one layer deeper to be like, can I have a situation where I'm wanting to focus on what's working? So with that, I know we're going deep, right? I'm going to share my screen again. And I would like for you to all so quickly answer this question. Here's true or false, right? If change is rolled out well, then people won't be upset about it. True or false? Come on. Yeah, you know this, right? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for humoring me. So if we are talking about communicating change to other people, what we know is that emotional reactions to change are normal. We all have feelings. If I was to say to everybody this morning, like, hey, everybody, at your work, there's going to be a change. Half of you would be like, yay. No, maybe a quarter of you would be like, yay. And the other half would be like, oh, no. Right? Very few would be like, oh, that's interesting. Huh? Okay, what? However, change rolled out well can reduce how long employees stay upset. Isn't that interesting? The goal is not to have people not feel or to only be positive, but it's about the length of time. So I want to share with you in just a moment. You could probably recite these each with me. I want to share with you the 5 stages of change and how you can support people in the different stages, AKA how you can influence to help people to move through change. But before I do that, would you put into the chat, what are some changes that you are experiencing at work that people have some feelings about? We don't even have to understand what you're talking about, but just put it into the chat. What are some changes you are experiencing at work that some people have feelings about? Oh yeah, these are heavy hitters because compensation is about money. People have feelings about money. New leadership, new COOs, definitely people have feelings about leadership at the top of organizations. Oh, and then restructuring, new org charts. Oh, people are like, am I still going to be necessary? Am I still going to get to be involved in these kinds of decisions? Am I going to like the new colleagues I'm working with? Oh, teleworking versus in-person working. Everyone's trash cans are being removed and prohibited. That might be my favorite one. That's hilarious. And I bet there are emotions about this. Yes? Oh, we've got a new ERP system, moving from a new building from the old home office, right? Oh, education models. This is so interesting, isn't it? And you would be annoyed with me if I told you, well, one thing we know is that the only thing that's constant is, I'm not even going to say it, right? You know that. So here's what I want to help you figure out is how you can support people in their stage of change. So with the exact one or ones you just put into the chat, let's figure out which stage are they in. So that first there's denial. I can't believe this is I can't believe they're taking away our trash cans. And step 2, anger would be like, and how dare they take away those trash cans? This is really my favorite example. Bargaining would be like, okay, well, if I'm allowed to use the trash can in the copy room, then, and I don't have one, then I'm okay if that's the deal, except this is accepting part, but not the whole. Depression is not necessarily clinical. It isn't clinical depression. It is being overwhelmed. I guess I'm never going to get to throw away trash in my own office again. What am I going to do? This is so complicated. And then acceptance is, I don't have a trash can. No emotional feelings about it at all. Might even be positive. Thank goodness. This encourages me to really consider how much stuff I'm putting into a landfill. I can get creative about how I can recycle. Can I consider not making waste in the world? Whatever, right? Okay, will you put into the chat, which stage are your people in general right now, like today, with that change you just talked about? I'm so curious. Are you all going to say acceptance? Probably not. And this is what exemplary leaders do. They, on a consistent basis, think about, What stage are my people in right now? And we know we can't push people through to the next level, meaning like, just get over it. Get on board, right, Robin? Even if we want to be like, come on, get on board. People have to have their experience. And oh, isn't this interesting? Okay, so we've got, so hard to figure out what the trends are. Oh, I like Gina, all three of those.
Well, there's several different places.
And oh yes, depending on the person and sometimes even depending on the time of day. Yeah. Okay, these are great. So here I'm going to share the quick and dirty tips for you. Okay, they're not dirty. With you about how to support people regardless of what each stage looks like. Because if you do it wrong, you will be seen as the jerk who is insensitive, who is just thinking the world is about rainbows and unicorns and that you don't understand your people, right? Okay, here's what it looks like. If they are in denial, your job is to listen, stop all your judgment, just listen, and ask questions where they can be self-reflective. Don't try and tell them, change is coming, get over it. Ask them questions where they can be self-reflective. Then for the next one, if they are having anger, this is where you're also listening with boundaries. If it's too angry, you're going to cut it off. You're going to get out of there. However, you also empathize. Empathize does not mean agreeing or fueling the fire. It does not mean fueling the fire. Like, yeah, you're right. This is terrible. That does not help them to move through the stages. If you're doing that, you're turning it into being more about you and you needing the support and help than them. Then the next one, and also for that one, for anger, it's okay if you match their energy a little bit, right? Because if you're doing the like, I'm just going to be chill and calm and whatever, it's no big deal. And they're like, this is so challenging. They also will feel like you don't get them. So it's okay for you to match their energy a little bit. Okay, then we go to bargaining. You're going to focus on what they're willing to accept instead of trying to push all the other stuff on them, right? So you're like, oh, Julie, let's talk about that trash can in the break room that you're excited about instead of, and you know you're never going to have a trash can in your office ever again. D, this is what you all want to do. In the denial one, in the depression one, this is where you're allowed to be a cheerleader. This is where you're allowed to say, let's figure out a path forward. We use the we mentality. There are a few different kinds of we mentalities, some that are bad and some that are good. This is a good one. We're going to get through this. Let's figure out a path forward. You get to strategize and break things into chunks, right? If we are ever trying to do a giant project, breaking it into chunks, that's how we can organize and not get overwhelmed. Figure out a step-by-step. Okay, well, what can we work on this week, right? Just this week instead of trying to focus on the whole thing. And then the very last, you're like, well, in acceptance, somebody doesn't need support. That's probably true. And have them then go mentor other folks, right? Now that I'm all delighted that we don't get to have trash cans anymore, I'm going to go to Kyle Rogers and be like, Kyle, let me share with you how amazing it is that we don't have trash cans. Or right, we can encourage our people who have gotten to acceptance to have that kind of relationship with people. One thing we already know, you know this, it's not linear. Once it's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and out and done forever. They might, it's all over the place. So pay attention. What questions do you have about this or anything you want to add? Feel free to just unmute, put a little hand up or put something into the chat. If you've got a question, I would love to hear it. If you don't, no problem at all. I'm so glad everybody's here. It is really so lovely to see your faces. Being that I think I do know 3/4 of you, I really wish you could all know each other. I mean, we are going to go into breakout rooms in a moment to talk for a moment. And I know some of you are like, yay. And some of you are like, oh no, I'm hanging up now. But you can handle it. It's going to be just fine. Okay, great. I'm seeing some comments come in. Great. Yeah, a cheat sheet for remembering how to meet people where they are, the perspective she just shared. I would have to that means, Katie, I would have to like actually write these things down. I'm not willing to, just kidding. Yeah, I can write a cheat sheet. I would be happy to try and write a cheat sheet, but I don't know one that exists already. Yeah, great question. Okay, great. And okay, let's keep going a little bit. Anytime, bring up a question or bring up a comment. Okay, here are a bunch of quick, practical, implementable ways for you to influence. You might know all of these, you may know none of these. You can take a screenshot if you want at the end. There's 8 of them. Remember, the best way to have somebody feel like you get them is to mirror them, meaning do the same thing they are doing. If they're leaning back, you lean back. If they're leaning in, you lean in. The second is the language of leadership is storytelling, but not long, boring, disconnected stories. Those are the worst and will get you a bad reputation quickly. These are, if you're trying to influence somebody, be the Hallmark commercial, be the UNICEF commercial, right? Where it's really connecting with people's emotions. Seek to understand first. And you might say, no, when I want to influence, I'm trying to have people understand me. The idea is seek to understand, right? In the Getting to Yes and the Power of a Positive No, they talk about how important that is. You've also heard Stephen Covey talk about seek to understand before being understood. And we've got 4. Use their ideas. That means you actually have to ask for their ideas. I know it sounds revolutionary, but if you want to move forward on something before you share your ideas, ask for theirs. 5, have no resilience. And you see it's in quotes, meaning resilience to when people tell you no. Not meaning have no resilience. Anytime somebody tells you no, you ask for a raise, no. You try and get a promotion, no. You want to work on this project, no. You're in your mind, you're going to translate it to, okay, not yet. And you're going to ask more questions. When might it be possible? When could we check back in again? What are your thoughts behind this, right? 6, paint a picture of a sustained status quo. This is one of my favorites. If people are not wanting to get on board and move forward with this new pay for performance model that some of you are experiencing in one of the organizations that I know you're a part of here, paint a picture of if we didn't change, if we stayed exactly like we are now for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, this is what it would look like. Then people start to feel uncomfortable with things staying the same. The concept of piloting is incredible. Let's pilot this. Let's try it, which means let's try instead of for the rest of my days, let's do things differently. I often think of this, I know it might be a strange example in your mind, but it's perfect in my mind, of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. When someone starts to participate in AA, they are typically not thinking, okay, for the rest of my days, however many decades I have left, I am never going to imbibe alcohol again. They are thinking today. Today I'm not. The next day they're thinking, today I'm not. It's this idea of saying, let me just focus on the right here and now. And maybe that then turns into decades and centuries, right? But let's try it. And then 8 is have a track record of trust. Somebody brought up trust already in the chat. You need to prove to people that, I don't even know what we say, that you are someone who earns trust, right? That you take their ideas and actually implement them, that you think through your ideas before you present them to other people, that you really do care and have empathy for others, and so, right? Have a track record of trust. So these are all 8 of them right here if you want to take a picture or you want to hold on to any of these. Okay, so now it's coming in like 2 minutes that I'm going to ask for you to go into breakout rooms. This is one of my favorite things ever. Who's seen this sphere of influence before? This is something that I encourage each of you to think about with every single frustration, challenge, obstacle. I want you to think about all of the things that are coming to me, that I have thoughts about, that I have feelings about. which of these things do I have no control over? Will you mind putting into the chat, what are some things that you worry or feel frustrated about sometimes that you have no control over? I could give you a couple of ideas, but put them in there. I know you've got tons of them. You're like, oh, I do spend time thinking about this or worrying about this, and I know it's not helpful, but I just do anyway. Oh, yes. Yes, good. No one has even said politics yet, because maybe you're all politicians and you're like, well, I can really influence. Oh, yeah, these are so good. Katie, for the win again, the apocalypse. No, just kidding. This is not a competition. Inflation, other people's feelings, the weather, traffic, other people's perceptions, the summer heat. I really do love all of these. Oh, even how people see me. Yes. Oh, what will happen with extinctions, personality differences. These are incredible. Okay, so this is when you start thinking about these things. You get to recognize, you get one level higher, right? You have a thought about your thought. You have some mindfulness and you think, is this helpful for me and the world? Is this not helpful for me and the world? Okay, now the chore list from my spouse. Stop it, that is my favorite. Okay, then the next is, this middle part here is, what do I have influence over? And then what do I have control over? Now we know whatever we have control over feels great. I get to be in charge, I get to put my stamp on the world, I get to set the course. But the one I want for us to really be focusing on is what is within my influence, because this one is something that we can get creative about. Sometimes we think the thing falls into no control, and then we're like, wait, maybe I do have some influence about this, right? Just as a really lighthearted example, in terms of perception, if I'm like, I do care today about how people see me. So 3 minutes before I get on this call, I'm going to take my sweatshirt off and put on this work jacket. That's really what I did. I am still wearing my slippers, but I'm not going to show you. So I want us to just be considering this and thinking through this all day long. What am I worried about, concerned about, thinking about? Is it within my control, my influence, or do I have no control over it? And so as we're looking at this, the things that we don't have control over, you nailed them, right? Thoughts, emotions, and behaviors of others. Things that we do have influence over are our thoughts, emotions, behaviors of others with questions, perspective, and empathy, right? We can influence others in that way. And then what do I have control over? These things. I have pure control over those. Then I'm going to put all of these in case you're wanting to take a picture. Now you got the whole slide. If we are focused on things that are not in our control, we feel those things, right? Angry, frustrated, hopeless, disempowered, terrible feelings. If we are focused on the things we can influence, these are great feelings, right? We're curious, hopeful, patient, and accepting. Sometimes we have to be tenacious because we want to flip back into, I give up, I don't want to try. But it's important to remember that that's part of the journey. And if we're focused on things we can control, all those words are good feelings too, right? Being empowered, having clarity, being content, and being confident. So now get ready. Here's the thing I'm going to put you into the rooms about. I would like for you to think about what is a change initiative that you are part of right now that you would like to influence. A change initiative that you're a part of that you would like to influence. This might be about work. This might be about your personal life, right? It might be getting your toddler to actually wear underwear. It might be about having your boss to see you as somebody who's really competent. It might be a million other things, but I want you to think about a change initiative that you would like to influence or you're trying to influence. We've already talked about very many different strategies, and we're going to talk about more, but I'm going to ask for you to share with a couple of partners what's coming to mind for you right now in terms of something you can implement. It might be a mindset or it might be a concrete strategy to move it even more in the direction that you might like. Is that question clear? Please don't ask me to write it in the chat because that was a lot of words. If you're not sure what the question actually is, ask your colleagues, and please feel free to say hi and meet each other and be like, where in the world are you and what do you do? And you never know where you're going to make a great connection, right? You might even say, let's stay on afterwards and let's exchange contact information or something like that. Okay, we're going to go in here just for about 2, maybe 3 minutes. It's going to be short. When you're ready, the rooms are open. Go for it. Welcome back. Lauren, will you share with me, what did you all talk about?
We all talked about our various goals. We had a big group, but I enjoyed hearing everybody's goals. Some were professional, some were personal, and it was nice to hear how everybody was focused on this training.
I love that. Lauren, what's yours? What do you want to be more influential about?
Yeah, so I work for the NAU Foundation. I'm the controller, and we recently had some organizational structure changes where I previously wasn't directly supervising any employees, but now I'm directly supervising 2. So I just want to make that as seamless for them and for our team as possible while being a positive leader.
How fantastic. I love that. You're saying I want to be intentional and I really care about being a good leader. Beautiful. Welcome back, everybody. If you're like, wait, why are other people talking? We just got back. Don't worry. Will you take a moment? I'm so proud of you, by the way, for being with new people and talking. It wasn't long enough, I know, but it's just starting to prime your mind for, how could I be more influential? And let me hear what everybody else is up to. Would you mind putting into the chat what came to you? What's something you want to try? What's something you're considering doing in terms of the change initiative where you're wanting to influence? What came to mind for you? Will you put it into the chat? What's something you want to try? And you may not, maybe you didn't even talk about strategies at all, but you just got to be around other people who it felt good to be like, oh, you're working on influencing too. And then you're having some of your own thoughts. These are awesome. Yeah, I'm going to read some of these. I feel like there's a bunch about listening, asking other people for their ideas, being aware of individuals and what level each person is at, and being open to bringing each person along at the speed they need. Oh, beautiful. I appreciate arming myself with the knowledge that I can't control others' emotions and thoughts, but I can focus on mine and the impact that I may have on others. Awesome. Brainstorm ideas, write them down, prioritize, and think about what's doable for a start. Something is better than nothing. Oh, yes, these are fantastic. Go with the flow more. Think about how can I help the most or be more helpful. Be kind, for everyone has their own battles. Let's remember that. Gosh, these are awesome. Thank you, everybody. Okay, let's keep going. So as we're thinking through these different ideas, let's now start going to strategic communication, right? Strategic communication, if we're thinking about defining it, it's often just about being intentional, right? And that's what you're all talking about doing. So you have had change rolled out poorly to you. Lauren was just talking about how they've just had a reorg and she's now supervising 2 people where she wasn't before. If you're thinking about a time where you were the recipient of a change, you had no control over it, what's been hard for you? Here it says, if a change or something new is being communicated to me, it's hard for me if, what? Fill in the blank. If, put it into the chat. Oh, these are so good. As you are writing these down, I will tell you, yes. The answer is yes. All the change management books that you might want to read, all the books about influence, will say exactly what you're saying. Meaning these are the things we need to consider. But again, often emotion or passion erodes strategy. So we want to remember these things. There's a lot in here about, I want to really understand the why. There's a lot in here about, I need my thoughts to be considered. I want to be able to communicate. I want to get to impact. It's about communication. I want to be able to understand it. Oh, these are so interesting. The value isn't communicated, so I don't really even understand. So if I was to tell all of you, I want to influence you, I'm going to go tell you, now everybody go find a wall and stand on your head for 7 minutes. Lean against the wall, you've got this. If you were like, what? What's that? I don't even get it. This doesn't make any sense. And if I was like, oh, well, what they say is that your IQ will improve by 50% if you do that for 7 minutes once. You would be all clamoring to get to a wall and do it, right? Just as an example, that's not actually true. But it really matters that we understand, oh yeah, Keith, there's no formal process. So it feels like chasing squirrels. It feels like leaders are following the shiny thing. It's not been thought out. When things are unknown, not feeling heard. These are great. This is everything you need to know, honestly. I mean, seriously, I could be like, this is what the books say, and it would be exactly what you just wrote. I want to share a quick story with you, which is when I can be teaching about influencer change for an 8-hour day. And then at the end of the day, my son, who's now 18 and is now out of the house, I think about last year, and it was really hard to get him to really care about academics. I could get in the car at the end of the day if it was an in-person gig. And I could start thinking about him like, how can I get him to care a little bit more about school? And I would start thinking things like, okay, we're going to have him do his homework downstairs. Okay. And it's going to be between 5 and 6 every day. So then he can just get it done. Yeah, that's a really good idea. And then he can have, we'll do a quiz. Oh, I know he has a quiz every Thursday. So every Wednesday night, he and I will get together. Oh, that's a great idea. And I walk in the door and I'm ready to tell him the whole plan. Now you all already can see 15 holes in my plan. And I was just teaching about change and influence all day and I forgot all of it because passion erodes strategy. So I want you to just write these things down with everybody else to share that you already know, so that when you are getting excited about doing something, you stop for a moment and you consider these things that you already know. Okay. If you are wanting to figure out if moving forward is a good idea, we want to get really deeply at the why. So many of you already talked about, I don't understand the why. Can we think about why on 5 levels? This stems from lean, which stems from Toyota, which is about really getting rid of the waste and focusing on the true intention. So this is asking why 5 times. If you're going to do this with a group, you have to tell them this is what you're doing. If you're doing it with an individual, you have to tell them this is what you're doing. You can even research more about this, like research, how do I roll out the 5 whys? It helps you get to the real deep understanding. Years ago, when I was the Dean of Education at a small college, I had to get people on board with this new hybrid teaching system. And it was new, right? Back then it was new, like 10, 15 years ago or so. And I think back of all the lessons that I now know that I would have done back then. One thing I would have shared with them at that time, with the faculty who hated that we were doing this and hated me. And I was the middle woman, right? The middleman, the middle woman. It wasn't my initiative. I just had to roll it out. If I would have said, we are a teaching institution where our students are here to learn and learning is hard. This is our opportunity to walk our talk and show all of our students that we believe so strongly in learning that we're going to push through. We're going to figure out how to use this new platform. We're going to figure out how to teach online. We're going to figure out, and I feel like that would have been the clincher, right? Can we speak to people's values? So get really deep with the why. I want to show you now, here are 2 resources. Some of you love a good resource. Here are 2 books that I think are helpful along the path. I feel like maybe half of you have read that first one, but I just want to show it. What they say here, and you can be like, yes, this is what we all just already said. Communicate the why, get the right people on the bus, right? Don't try and fit a round peg into a square hole, right? Be honest about the brutal facts, meaning don't sugarcoat. Have that transparency that we said is so important for influencing. Engage in dialogue and debate, not coercion, right? This is seeking to understand. Identify vital behavior. That's one thing that really comes up in the influencer book, meaning what specifically are you wanting folks to get on board with? Instead of 100 little things, what are the top 3 small things? Connect actions to values. That's what I was just talking about. And identify the opinion makers. This one is interesting, right? Not the positional leaders per se, but the folks who tend to influence for better or worse the other folks. That's how we are strategic, right? We utilize those strategies. Now we're going to talk about some adaptive kind of strategies. And with that, I'm going to share with you a quick video in a moment, which is we're just going to look at 5 minutes of it. It's a little bit embarrassing because it is a video of me, but I'm also going to share the link with you so you have access to it in the future if you want to share it with your team or you want to watch it later. But here's another quick true or false question. If change is planned well, there won't be changes during the implementation. You're like, are you going to make us write the answer, Julie? Okay, no. I mean, yes. I mean, no. Okay, fine. Here's the answer. That is false. We should plan and respond to what we learn during implementation. This is where we're being called on to have 2 different personality traits, planfulness and flexibility. Thinking forward and really considering the details and keeping our eyes open and shifting gears when necessary, right? The more complicated the change, the more likely there will be unforeseen outcomes. This is a natural part of change. So for those of us who love to map out the 75 steps, only map out the first 7, then reconvene, change directions if need be. For those of us who love spontaneity, map out the first 7 and then get input. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can share this video with you. And let me make sure that I just clicked on that there's sound. Yes. And get ready. Here are some quick strategies put into this video. I'm going to ask for you to give me a head nod in a moment, Deshay, if you can hear this. We're talking about buy-in and rolling out change. So change is an extremely daunting topic for people. And one thing that we know is change causes emotions. It's very rare that people feel neutral about change. If I was to ask you personally, do you tend to run toward or away from change? Do you love or do you hate change? If you are one of the people who says, I love change, I would call some of your bluff, meaning that we tend to like 2 kinds of change. 1, that we initiate ourselves, and 2, that we deem to be good. We've decided it's good. Other change, we have a lot of fear of the unknown and we have a lot of judgments about it. So we're going to talk about how to help others to accept change, how to help you yourself accept change, and how we can roll out change well to others. You've heard statistics like I have that are kind of all over the board. Somewhere from 50 to 70% of change initiatives fail. So let's talk about how to change that statistic. So the first strategy is to get clear on your intention. You've heard that a few times throughout, but what I mean by this is, what's the point? What's the point of your change? I want you to be able to sum it up in a sentence. I don't mean that you have to have mapped out the entire process, but what is the ultimate goal? One thing that we know about people who receive the change, who are the recipients of change, is they hate it when it's change just for change's sake. So you need to make sure that it's not because change is exciting to you or it sounds like a fun idea at the time. They want to understand that there's a real need for this change. You can also share what's the pain of not changing. And the second part of this is be ready to communicate the why like your life depended on it. Meaning you need to communicate how it connects to your company's values, your team's mission. Here's an example for you. I was working with somebody who said she wanted to lose 50 pounds. I was coaching her and I said, why? As any good coach asks that question many times. And she said, because my doctor said if I don't, I'm going to be in trouble. And I made a mistake. I let her give that as the answer. So a month later, when we came back together, I said, okay, how's it going? Because my job as a coach is to be her accountability partner. And she said, well, Julie, I haven't lost any weight and it's because I've been too, and you know the answer, I've been too busy, essentially meaning I haven't made it a priority. And then I looked her dead in the face and I said, losing 50 pounds is hard. It might be one of the absolute hardest things you ever do. Do you really want to do it? And she sat and thought with some gravity there and she said, yes. And I said, why? And don't even tell me it's because your doctor wants you to, because that is the tip of the iceberg. Why do you want to lose this weight? And she sat there and thought about it for a couple of minutes. And then with tears in her eyes, she said, because I want to be able to actually get down on the ground and play with my grandkids. And then she did it. She needed to connect to her why. The second strategy is involve people early in the process. Brainstorm together. You may have heard the African proverb before that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I don't want you to underestimate the importance here. When we have urgency and excitement, we tend to forget to get input from others, but this part is extremely important. Other people might even share ideas or thoughts that you think sound terrible. We know that the most important tenet of brainstorming is not shutting anybody down. So you want to ask questions like, tell me more about that idea, or flesh that out for me. Involve other people early. All right, the third strategy is to have a balance. Combine both planfulness with flexibility. Okay, we're going to stop that there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put into the chat that link. If you want to finish watching the whole thing, it's only like 8 minutes or so, or if you want to share it with others, it's just a few strategies that might be new to you or might be old that you're just remembering. So I want to share my screen again. I'm going to share with you just a little bit more. Only 13 minutes left together. Okay. So if people's input wasn't requested in a change initiative, how do you still give input? This is a tricky one. I want you to put stuff into the chat because you might be thinking about yourself, and you're like, how can I still influence this change initiative if it's already moving forward and I haven't been asked? What can you do? This is like high level. This is like influence 801. Put into the chat what ideas come to you. These are awesome. See, now this is hard because you might be like, well, I wasn't considered, I wasn't asked, what can I do? And this is where sometimes you can get together in community and ask questions or ask people for their input because look how good this is. There's so many ideas here. And aren't you so impressed with everybody's thoughts, right? We've got influence how and at what speed. There it is. It's adopted or implemented. I think you can still offer past experience or history with the topic so they at least know what they might be up against. Ask them, have you thought of X, Y, and Z? Share data, motivation around the piece, and like charisma. Ask some questions, paint a picture of the future, ask questions, ask questions, ask questions, ask questions. Was that amazing? All four of you at the same time saying that, right? Share the advantages, positive outcomes, provide feedback. Remember this, we want to give the benefit of the doubt to people who are rolling out change that if they have not asked for our feedback, they may have just forgotten. Is there an opportunity to say, hey, I wonder if we might pause and give some feedback? Wouldn't that be helpful along the process, right? Check in personally with the managers, request time with the change leader and offer a perspective confidentially. Embrace it, try it, then provide best practices and lessons learned. I'm in love. This is a full-blown, see, you've got all of this. And we're talking about the adaptive stuff now, right? You can also, you already talked about this, but identify how you will measure if the change is successful. That one maybe didn't come up as much, but this is important. This is important because we need to be able to say, has it worked or not? And sometimes we don't think about that at all. I would say my own personal impression or thoughts, I feel like 2% of the time that is asked in the beginning. It just gets rolling. So for you to stop and ask this one question could be the most powerful thing that happens. And then secondly, it says ask for feedback on the measurable outcomes, right? Okay. A few thoughts. This proverb you just heard, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Now we're talking about the improver. We've got a rolling out change checklist that we're going to send, to you after this session today with the recording, and so that you can have something that you can laminate, you can cry on, you can spill your coffee on, so you can remember some stuff. But as we are moving forward, I want you to stop and pause, and I want you to think right now, what are 2 strengths that you have when trying to influence others? I want you to just start there, and then we'll go to growths in a moment, but will you put into the chat? I want you to focus on your strengths. Don't hide your light under a bushel. Let us hear. Don't apologize for any of it. 2 strengths, put them into the chat, that you possess when trying to influence others. These are so great. And I want you to embrace these. I want you to put a Post-it note on your computer and remind yourself daily that you are incredible in these ways, right? We've got, I'm open-minded and charismatic, credible, honest, open-minded and open, love listening deeply and sharing ideas. I'm empathetic, I'm honest, I communicate the bigger picture and I have transparency. I'm positive, I'm approachable, I'm trustworthy, I give the why, I listen to their perspective, and all these other great things, right? Now, how would you like to grow? I'm going to put a little line here. How would you like to grow in general in terms of your ability to influence? Great. Keep them coming. We've got anticipate worry and needs. And quite frankly, if each of you don't have a scheduled time on your calendar, a date with yourself every week, even if it's just 15 minutes, I'm going to encourage you to do that, to stop and think what's working, what's not, what should I start doing, what should I stop doing, and what should I continue doing? That's a great way to actually strategize, right? To have the time for it. Having positive energy and being open to ideas, communicating more, changing my perception, being more positively oriented in terms of mindset, gain knowledge on certain topics, be more assertive, ask the team for their ideas, do better listening, maintain a positive attitude, involve people sooner, be open-minded and increase my EQ. Oh, awesome. I mean, they're all awesome, but that one just stood out to me. Influence based on personality type. Don't be afraid to give negative feedback. Listen and learn. Have patience with the process and let go of things. Have deeper alignment with my calling to provide maximum value and service to the world. Yes, and more. These are fantastic. And Matt Morales for the win. Stand upside down on my head. Yes, thank you so much. Yes, yes. Okay, so here are a few strategies we've been talking about. You can see them all in one spot. So can we lead with questions, not answers? Can we be patient? Can we refocus stuck team members and think about their influence and their impact? Have them teach them about the sphere of influence. Communicate the why. Get the right people on the bus. Be honest about the brutal facts. Encourage dialogue, debate, not coercion. Vital behaviors. Connect actions to values. Identify the opinion makers. Identify how you'll measure success if the change is successful. Ask for feedback on the measurable outcomes and involve others early in the process. Oh my gosh. I'm going to stop my share for a moment. I'm wondering if a couple of you wouldn't mind sharing what are your biggest takeaways that we have been talking about. Lisa Pounds and Jason Rorda, would you mind unmuting with us and share with us just to hear? I know my least comfortable way to communicate or to teach is to be the sole talker, but I also know when there's an hour and it's a webinar and strangers are signed up with each other, that's often more of what you want. But I want to hear, Lisa and Jason, what is standing out to you the most? What's the biggest takeaway? Maybe what's a way you might implement? I'm just curious. Lisa, will you start us?
You bet. Interestingly enough, I'm in the middle of major change in my work. So all of this spoke to me, and even some of the things that we talked about, I thought, oh, I did that wrong just yesterday. So I mean, it's very timely. I think listening, getting people involved in it early, those are some of the things that really spoke out to me, and also the control and influence and things that are out of my control. So that was really impactful.
That is beautiful. And Lisa, what we are all going to say to you right now is to not be hard on yourself, right? And you're going to just say to yourself, oh, how interesting. I just did this yesterday. And now that I know better, I can do better. How interesting that I did it that way yesterday. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you. And Jason, how about you?
I think one of the things that stuck out to me the most is potentially how people might really understanding the why of change, and how the way we communicate that why might sound different to different people. So really understanding communication styles and how we communicate with throughout the different levels of the organization, whether it's staff you're supervising or peers, what that why is, and really what it might mean to someone.
Yeah.
One explanation might be, okay, let's go for it. And the next one might need a little bit more deeper understanding.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate you highlighting that. And I want to tell you, even just recently, on a personal note, with my partner, my spouse, he just recently said, I was like, why aren't you like getting on board with this? This is really important to me. And he said, oh, you never told me that. I was like, oh. So for us to communicate even things like, I know this might seem stupid and simple and little, but it's really important to me. Then he's like, oh, then I'm on board. I just thought it was like do you want to do this or not? Right? So we can be works in progress all the time. When we're like, let's do this. I would like to do this. And this is why, right? And this is why. That can be part of our verbiage. Okay, so now with our last 3 minutes, I would like to share with you an upcoming opportunity, drum roll please, which is for something that's starting in August. It's our group coaching intensive that is about executive presence. And executive presence or leadership presence, it is probably one of the topics that are most requested. And it's an opportunity for leaders to come together and have a 5-month program that's essentially once a month. A bunch of you, I want to say maybe 10 different folks here today have, if your video's on and you don't mind sharing that you've been part of the group coaching intensive, do you mind sharing with us? Yeah, great. You can see a bunch of folks are here. So let me share with you. It's just being announced right now. We haven't even officially opened it. So this is like what we want. Oh, nice, Stephanie. Thanks. This is the soft rollout. It's being communicated to you first. And so really the reason people sign up is because they want to have connection with dynamic leaders. They want reflection and future focused strategy, and they want to develop their leadership skill and in something that's not too overwhelming or they have to fly away to go do it. If you go onto our website, lancasterleadership.com, and just look for the group coaching intensive, you will see it. If you want to talk with me more about it, here's a scheduling link in the chat. It's just for us to talk for 15 minutes. Oh, how nice. People just saying in there what some of the benefits for you personally have been. I'm really excited about this one, this leadership presence series. Here's what it looks like on our website. All you do is click on there and it's open for you. It's just not open for everybody else. You're going to see all the things you're going to gain. You're going to get, we're going to focus on a book that's called Own the Room, Finding Your Signature Voice and all that stuff. We get a one-on-one coaching session together. We even have a panel. I bet a lot of you know some of those folks. It's really an incredible experience and I couldn't recommend it more. If you want to check out, here are more details about what we will be talking about. If you want to see who's been in these in the past, you can scroll through and see all these leaders. And that, my friends, is time for me. We did it. We did it. How wonderful. Robin and Katie, can I ask for you to be our wrapper-uppers? Meaning that as we're about to hang up, would you give us some words of inspiration or motivation or something that comes to mind for you?
Something that occurred to me, and now I see I wrote it down as a gift to all of you. You matter, and really attempt to be intentional about your influence. Everything you do and say every day has an impact. Be intentional about it.
Oh, how beautiful was that? Thank you so much. And
I would say understanding our influence. I think I always think I understand what my influence is, but after going through this today, it's like I don't really understand all the time what my influence is and how I'm always perceived. And I'll remember that people will perceive me differently, and I only have a control over what I put out and be careful what I put out.
oh, beautiful. Can we all, before we hang up, can we unmute, say our goodbyes out loud together? If you want to stay back and connect with any certain folks or talk with me about anything, please feel free. I'm so happy to have been here with you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye, Julie.
Bye-bye. Bye.